Hey, it is Curly Shirley and I am back with another video. Today we're going to be covering intuitive painting. What is intuitive painting, you ask? Intuitive painting is exploring self through the creative process in a safe and critique-free environment. So that means finding ways to use that negative little naggy voice to better our pieces versus being hard on ourselves. This means exploring your own unique creative process. So you're releasing attachment to control, expertise, or what the final product will look like. Lastly, y'all already know what I'm gonna say. Trusting the process is the most important part. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an example of me failing to trust the process. A little shout out to this client who commissioned me to do this piece, and she trusted me enough to do what it is that I do best, which is painting. And I pretty much got a concept together and I started it. It wasn't a terrible concept, but as I started to work on it, I began to feel like it was a little bit corny. And that sort of manifested in a way that I took really long to do the commission. So she definitely had a lot of patience with me. And in this instance, the time that I wasn't listening to my intuition was when I knew the piece wasn't really making me happy. It really didn't feel good. The intention that I was putting behind it, I felt like it was hard to transfer that onto the canvas so that once the piece was completed and sitting in this person's space, that it would, brighten the room in the way that I had intended to with that intention. And I didn't want to say anything to her about it. So eventually I did say something to her because I made this, and I don't know what it was about it, but again, it was literally just a feeling and an instance where I had to be true to myself and what I was feeling inside and what I kind of had an inner knowing about. It had to go, okay? I did ask her permission, obviously, and she was okay with it. And with that, I was able to start a whole new process, which I had much more fun doing. So I don't remember exactly what the scenario was. I just kept getting a lot of messages about fairies. So I decided to pick a color scheme with my color wheel. Ended up going for some kind of cool tones with the blue, purple, greenish, turquoise-ish, and went right into it. Can't really see, but we're getting started. I put some clouds, but as I mentioned before, I was inspired to do something fairy-based, fairy-themed, and this partially stemmed from the fact that I don't often see Black women or people depicted as fairies, at least not in what I've looked at, I'm not super into fantasy-based arts, but I haven't seen anything, and it shouldn't take me being super into fantasy arts to feel represented, right? Another reason why I decided to kind of do this piece is because I am not very good with pastel colors. I don't have much experience with them, so I figured this would be a chance to kind of try my hand with that. So as I said, it's sort of like releasing the attachment to control and really opening yourself up in a way that you are a little bit more receptive to something outside of your comfort zone in whatever capacity that means for you. For me, that was just something that started smaller. So I've obviously worked with dark blues or medium colored blues and purples, but I haven't really done too much work with light colors unless they are accompanied by dark colors. So there's that on that. Another thing that I haven't really tried much is sort of the girl's posture, I guess. It was something new for me. So as you can see here, it was really troubling. It was troubling me like hardcore because I had a lot of issues getting the perspective in her leg. But you know, just a little bit of tweaking here and there, and again, trusting the process is what really got me the end result. So trusting the process meant I had to let go of the attachment of really being good at something or knowing exactly what to do. And now in the end, it turns out that I do know what to do the next time around. So a little bit of short-term pain for long-term gain. I'm not mad at it. Another example of me really having to trust what was going on was when I was doing this girl's hair, because let me tell you, I promised you I thought that it looked cute when I initially did it, but then after, I felt like her hair was too high above her head and it was just doing too much, so I had to fix it, which was kind of annoying. But I mean, again, it's trial and error, right? So you guys will see a little bit later on that me being me, no, I could not leave it alone. I ended up going in and kind of altering that a little bit again, but that was, as I said, me sort of trusting the process, trusting my intuition, and kind of rolling with what felt good and what didn't. And something about her head top was just not feeling good to me, so we had to switch it up right quick. At this point, I told y'all about them colors. I was not good with it, but I was trying to find a way to make her dress or her outfit pop, but not pop too much, you know, like I wanted it to be obvious that it was different from what she was wearing, but I didn't want it to stick out too much. And at first I kind of wanted to do something that was white, but then I was like, the flowers she's sitting on, like it doesn't really, you know, I didn't want it to blend too much. So I pretty much went in and added 50 million layers in typical Curly Shirley fashion, because you know how I feel about the layering on top of layering on top of layering. It works for me. So that's pretty much what I did. Then I got really tired of the foot and I was like, forget this. I'm just gonna put her dress over it and call it a day. And it ended up working out pretty well. Obviously after quite a bit of tweaking. And voila. Like I said, I kept layering on top of layering and it ended up working out in my favor. It did take a lot of patience, so I did have to sort of really get in touch with myself and sort of step away from what my expectations were with this piece. And I think that it was a really fun experience for me because I ended up having the opportunity to create something really beautiful, and the person that I made it for, they really ended up liking it too. And I think that I just was able to, I really didn't think I was gonna be able to pull this off, to be honest. And I do have to give kudos to like a few of my friends, because I was kind of like like on and on about it, and they were really supportive and really helpful and really gave me like small but very important tips, whether it was kind of like in terms of my emotions or mentally, or even just little tips in terms of like the orbs. You'll start to notice that once you get in the groove of trusting the process, it'll begin to come a little bit more naturally. The hardest part of trusting the process is probably the beginning stages, because you're sort of laying the foundation for everything, right? But again, as you know, the foundation is probably the most important part. So when I talk about tuning into your own unique creative process, this probably refers more to knowing who you are as a person, or using painting or just creativity in general as a means of exploring that. So for instance, your girl is not a very patient person. You know, patience is not my strong suit. But when it comes to painting, I really have to, again, be open and go outside of my comfort zone in terms of just being gentle with myself when I make mistakes, as well as knowing that you're not going to be perfect when you start something. You know, the good thing about the foundation is that because it's only sort of the groundwork, it's the underneath, it's the bottom layer, there can always be multiple layers. You know me, you know what I'm gonna say. Multiple, like I mean multiple layers that can go on top and help you tweak things. And as you guys can see here, even when you're deep in the process, there's always a way to tweak things to make them work out. You just add a little bit on top. That's the beautiful part of acrylics. Once something dries, you just kind of get a little bit added on top and you can make whatever tweaks and changes that you want. So at this point, I'm kind of just, again, rendering, adding some details. I'm sort of picking my light source. I already kind of had it, but as you can see, obviously the moon is there. So I'm trying to make sure that all the light spots of these vines come from the direction of wherever the moon is, dependent on where the vines are, right? So obviously if the moon is on the left-hand side and the vines are on the right, the left-hand side is going to be lighter, etc., etc. And then I'm going to sort of go in and add a few more orbs or stars. And once I completed that, I was pretty much done. When I tell you this is like one of my favorite pieces, my goodness. It's almost like every single piece that I make, I'm just even more proud of it than the last, because again, I'm pushing myself outside of my comfort zone and doing something that's completely different from what I normally would. And it's just super empowering. I would probably say the most empowering part of it was the fact that I was really struggling and I decided to kind of fight through it. So do not ignore that calling or that feeling. That's your intuition. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.